Happy New Year! Welcome into 2024. Hard to believe that 2023 is already over. I am just mind blown as to how fast time really does go by. So, I'll be reviewing all the games from the very last day of 2023. There were 9 games on tap from Sunday's action. Starting with the two teams you see on your screen with the Montreal Canadiens, and they went into Tampa to take on the Lightning. All right, let's take a look at the goal scoring summary from this particular game. So there was no scoring in the first. We have to go to the second, 3 minutes and 58 seconds to be exact. Cole Caulfield would get a loose puck and pot it into the back of the net, giving the Habs a 1-0 lead, his 10th goal of the season. About 12 minutes into the game, this was a very strange goal in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, you have to go and look on YouTube. Kovacevic would get the puck from Samuel Montembeault. It looked like the play was dead, but you didn't hear a whistle. And if you look in the corner of the screen, you can see the referee. He had the whistle in his mouth, but for some reason he refused to blow the whistle. So all the Tampa Bay players started going off the ice. The Montreal goalie, Montembeault, he would pass the puck to Kovacevic, and the referee was pretty much like, play on, play on. And while that was happening, at the other end of the ice, the Tampa Bay goalie, who they had in net, I think it was Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, he was just skating side to side, which goalies normally do when they're waiting between whistles. So there's an open net, and Kovacevic shot from his end of the ice and potted it into the back of the net. So a very controversial goal. And I knew once that happened, I'm like, man, Montreal's got to keep this pressure up, otherwise they can lose it. So it was 2-0 at that point in favor of the Habs. Just over 2 minutes later, Braden Point, would finally get the Bolts on the board, recording his 17th goal of the season from Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel. And then, with 2.5 minutes to go, Austin Watson would tie the game up, getting his second goal of the season, assisted by Hedman and Parabix. So despite giving up that terrible, controversial goal, the Bolts were able to overcome that, tying the game up at 2 after 2. In the third period, Christian DeHaan would finally get his first goal as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning, 7 minutes and 49 seconds into that third period, assisted by Kucherov and Stamkos. Speaking of Kucherov, he would then get a late goal for the Bolts, increasing the lead to 4-2, getting his 26th of the season from Hedman and Cirelli, and that goal happened with 5 minutes and 6 seconds remaining in the period. Suzuki would get a late goal for the Habs, but unfortunately it was too little too late at that point, cutting the deficit to 4-3, his 11th goal of the season from Slavkovsky and Matheson, and that goal happened with 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in the period. But unfortunately, it was too little too late, like I just said, for the Habs to mount a comeback against the Lightning. So with the victory, Tampa, they have now bumped themselves up into the top 4 of that Atlantic Division. They are sitting at 18, 15, and 5. And with the loss, the Habs are still in the bottom 4 of that division, 15, 16, and 5. All right, the next matchup takes place in Minnesota, where we have the Wild, and they played host to the
Jets.
Thank you.
Winnipeg Jets.
Winnipeg Jets. There we go. Maybe you can start announcing some teams so I can save my voice. All right, let's take a look at the goal scoring summary from this game. In the first, Marcus Foligno would kick things off for the Wild. It would be a late goal, 1 minute and 53 seconds remaining in that period, getting his 6th goal of the season from Spurgeon and Gaudreau. In the second, 2 minutes and 8 seconds into that second period, Adam Lowry would tie the game up, getting his 7th goal of the season from Appleton and DeMello. In the third, Gaudreau would get a power play goal for the Wild, 3 minutes and 56 seconds into that third period, getting his 3rd goal of the season from Johansson and Petten. Nemestikov would tie the game up less than a minute after that, getting a power play goal of his own for the Jets, recording his 4th goal of the season from Perfetti and Schmidt. 7 minutes and 32 seconds into that period, Toniato, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, would get his 1st goal of the season for the Jets, increasing the lead to 3-2, assisted by Dillon and Pionk. So 3-2 would be the final from Minnesota. These two teams actually played a home and home. So the prior to Saturday night, they played in Winnipeg. The Jets won. Then they flipped the script to Minnesota, and the Jets still managed to get 4 points out of possible 4. All right, so with that, the Jets are now sitting at 22-9-4, top 3 in their division. And with the loss, the Minnesota Wild are 16-15-1, I do believe. Again, they're in the bottom 4 of that Central division. All right. The next matchup takes place in Detroit, where we have the Red Wings
playing the Boston Bruins.
Thank you. So 2 original 6 teams fighting for 2 points. All right. Let's take a look at the goal scoring summary from this particular game. In the first, Frederick would kick things off for the Bruins. It'd be a very late goal, mind you. Just 52 seconds remaining in that first period. He would kick things off with his 8th goal of the season from Pasternak and Witherspoon. In the second, Frederick would then double up that lead to 2-0, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 9th of the season from McAvoy and Lindholm. Just under 7 minutes remaining in that period, Wallman would finally get the Red Wings on the board, cutting the deficit to 2-1, recording his 9th goal of the season from Larkin and Raymond. And with 3 minutes and 18 seconds to go, Ben Sherratt would tie it up for the Red Wings, getting his 3rd goal of the season from Kopp and Bellino. So it was all tied up at 2, heading into the 3rd period. 3 minutes and 52 seconds into that 3rd period, Charlie Coyle would give the Bruins a 3-2 lead, getting his 13th goal of the season from McAvoy and Marchand. DeBrusque would then double up the lead to 4-2, recording his 6th goal of the year from Frederick and McAvoy. And that goal happened with 2 minutes and 1 second remaining in that period. Less than a minute after that, about 40 seconds to be exact, Comfort would cut the deficit to 4-3 for the Red Wings, getting his 8th goal of the season from DeBrincat and David Perron. And that'd be a power play goal. And then with just under 30 seconds to go, 24 seconds to be exact, Pavel Zacha would increase the lead to 5-3, getting his 9th goal of the season from Pasternak and Lindholm. So 5-3 would be the final score in favor of the Bruins. So with the victory, the Bruins are still atop of that Atlantic Division. They are sitting at 22-7-6. And with the loss, the Red Wings have now dropped to the bottom 4 of that division. They're only in 5th place. 17-16-4. All right. The next matchup takes place in Ottawa. Thank you. And they played host to
The Sabres.
Thank you.
Or should I say the Buffalo Sabres?
The Buffalo Sabres. There we go. I mean, if you don't know hockey, you might need to know the city too. All right, let's take a look at the goal scoring summary from this game. So in the first, Churkin would kick things off for the Senators 6 minutes and 51 seconds into that opening period, getting his 7th goal of the season from Giroux and Sanderson. Zach McEwen would get his 1st goal of the year for the Senators with 7 minutes and 22 seconds remaining in that period, assisted by Bernard Docker and Tom Chabot. Tage Thompson would get a late goal for the Buffalo Sabres, getting them on the board, getting his 10th goal of the season from Jeff Skinner. So it's 2-1 in favor of the Senators after 1. In the second, Dominic Kubalik would record his 8th goal of the year, assisted by Gregg and Chabot, 7 minutes and 18 seconds into that period. And with just 16 seconds to go, it looked like it was going to be 3-1, but Kestelik would get his 1st goal of the season for the Ottawa Senators, assisted by Brandstrom, 4-1 in favor of the Sens after 2 periods of play. In the third, just a lone goal to report, and that happened with 4 minutes and 46 seconds remaining. 4 minutes and 44 seconds remaining in that period. Zub would increase the lead to 5-1, recording his 3rd goal of the season, so that Ottawa Senators finished off 2023 with a win. So with the victory, the Sens are 14-18-0. Unfortunately, they are at the bottom of that Atlantic Division, and with the loss, the Sabres, who are just ahead of them in the standings, are 15-19-4. All right. Now the next game takes place in and they played host to
New York Islanders.
Fantastic. I appreciate the help. I'll just say the scores, and you just tell me the teams. How about that?
Okay.
Sweet. All right, and the first, Lars Eller would kick things off for the Penguins, recording his 5th goal of the season for Harkins and Pustinen, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. In the second, Noel Acciari would double up the lead to 2-0, getting his 3rd goal of the year from O'Connor. In the third period, Bolduc would get his 1st goal of the season for the New York Islanders, 13 minutes and 51 seconds into that frame. So therefore, there was 6 minutes and 9 seconds remaining in the period. And then with just under a minute to go, Lars Eller would pretty much get an empty netter, increasing the lead to 3-1, getting his 6th goal of the season. And that's where we would stand at the end of regulation. So with the victory, with the victory, the Penguins are now 18-13-4. Again, they're still at the bottom four of that division, not doing that great. And despite the loss, the Islanders, I believe, are in the top three of their division, 17-10-9. I apologize. I was reading the next game. All right, speaking of the next game, we are heading to...
Calgary?
Nope.
Oh. Anaheim?
And they took on the...
Edmonton Oilers.
There you go. Fantastic. All right, let's take a look at this goal scoring summary from this particular game. So in the first, Ryan McLeod would kick things off for the Edmonton Oilers, recording his 7th goal of the season from Warren Foegele. Max Jones would tie things up 9 minutes and 10 seconds in that period, getting his 4th goal of the season from Strome and Trevor Zegras. With 2 minutes and 38 seconds remaining, Evander Kane would give the Oilers a 2-1 lead, recording his 14th goal of the season. So after 20 minutes, it was 2-1 in favor of the Oilers. In the second, just a minute and 48 seconds into that frame, Draisaitl would get his 17th goal of the year from Nurse and Foegele. Speaking of Foegele, he'd get on this goal scorer sheet as well, getting his 6th goal of the season from Nurse and Connor Brown, 4 minutes and 16 seconds into that frame. He would then get his 2nd goal of the game, his 7th of the season from Ryan McLeod and Leon Draisaitl, and that goal happened 11 minutes and 43 seconds into that period, or 8 minutes and 17 seconds remaining in that frame. So it was 5-1 in favor of the Oilers heading into the third period. Frank Vatrano would finally cut the deficit to 5-2, getting his 17th goal of the season from Killorn and Gudas, 4 minutes and 49 seconds at that point of the game. 8 minutes and 49 seconds into that third period, Zach Hyman would increase the lead to 6-2, getting his 21st goal of the season from McDavid and Evan Bouchard. And with just over 4 minutes remaining, Brad Kulak would get his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Draisaitl and Warren Foegele. So Warren Foegele had a pretty big game, to say the least. So the final score from Anaheim would be 7-2 in favor of the Oilers. So with the victory, the Oilers are now sitting at 18-15-1. They're getting close to a wild card spot, but they still have a few more games to catch up. And with the loss, the Ducks are now second last in that Pacific Division, 13-23-0. All right. Now the next matchup takes place in...
Calgary.
And they played host to...
The Philadelphia Flyers.
Fantastic. Sweet. All right, let's take a look at the goal scoring summary from this particular game. All right. So in the first, Ristolainen would get his 1st goal of the season for the Philadelphia Flyers, assisted by Paling and Verby, 9 minutes and 44 seconds into that opening period. So it was 1-0 in favor of the Flyers heading into the second period. Late in that second period, Backlund would tie things up for the Flames, getting his 8th goal of the season, assisted by Mangiapane and Gilbert. That goal happened with 1 minute and 39 seconds to go in the frame. Speaking of Gilbert, he'd get on the score sheet, getting his 1st goal of the season, assisted by Huberdeau and Coleman, 7 minutes and 29 seconds into that frame. Nazem Kadri would get his 10th goal of the year from Mangiapane, 14 minutes and 29 seconds into that third period, or 5 minutes and 31 seconds remaining in that period. Brink would then cut the deficit to 3-2, getting his 7th goal of the season, assisted by Atkinson and Konechny, and that goal happened with 3 minutes and 24 seconds to go in the period. Just over a minute after that, Blake Coleman would increase the lead to 4-2 for the Calgary Flames, getting his 13th goal of the season, assisted by Mangiapane. And with just under a minute after that, a lot of goals were scored in that third period. Zamula would get his 3rd goal of the season, cutting the deficit to 4-3, assisted by Konechny and Frost. But finally, there'd be no more scoring after that. So it's like within 5.5 minutes, there were 4 goals that were scored. Just unbelievable, kind of like back and forth action kind of thing. So with the victory, the Flames are now 15-16-5. They're narrowly back to 500. And despite the loss, the Flyers are still in the top 3 of that Metropolitan Division at 19-12-5. All right, just 2 more games to cover. So now we're off to...
Colorado. I don't know.
And they played host to
the San Jose Sharks.
the worst team in the National Hockey League. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the goal scoring summary from this game. So in the first, Mikko Rantanen would kick things off for the Avs, getting his 19th goal of the season from McKinnon and Nichushkin, 6 minutes and 58 seconds into that frame. A power play goal to note. Speaking of power play goals, in the second, Thomas Hertl would tie things up for the Sharks with 3 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in that period. He would get his 13th goal of the season from Granlund and Addison. In the third period, Nichushkin would get a late goal for the Avalanche with 3.5 minutes to go, getting his 17th goal of the season from Jack Johnson and Nathan McKinnon. And then, with just 1 minute and 7 seconds to go, the Sharks were on the power play looking to tie it up. Josh Manson would steal it, get his 4th goal of the season from Taves and Johansson. So 3-1 is where we would stand at the end of this one. So with the victory, Colorado is now sitting at 23-11-3 atop of that Central Division. And like I said, the Sharks are the worst team in the league. 9-25-3 is where we would stand at the end of this match. All right, the last game from Sunday takes place in Dallas, and they played host to Chicago Blackhawks. So this one would be a very high-scoring affair for one team, at least. In the first, Craig Smith would kick things off for the Dallas Stars, getting his 4th goal of the season, assisted by Sam Steele and Hakpana. Ryan Sutter would get his 1st goal of the season for the Stars, assisted by Robertson and Heiskanen, and that goal happened with 2 minutes and 44 seconds remaining in the period. Tyler Seguin would increase the lead to 3-0, getting his 11th goal of the season from Marchment and Duchesne, and that goal happened with 49 seconds to go in the frame. So it was 3-0 in favor of the Stars heading into the second period. Sam Steele would increase the lead to 4-0 at that point, getting his 3rd goal of the season from Robertson and Heiskanen, 3 minutes and 43 seconds into that frame. Marchment would get a power play goal for the Stars, increasing the lead to 5-0 with 7 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the period. So it was 5-0 for the Stars heading into the third period. Khrushchev would finally get the Blackhawks on the board, getting his 7th goal of the season from Bedard and Gutman, a power play goal to note. After that, it was all Stars. Hintz would increase the lead to 6-1, getting his 15th goal of the season from Harley and Pavelski, 4 minutes and 44 seconds, and it's 4 minutes and 46 seconds into that frame. Marchment would then record his 2nd goal of the game, his 12th of the season from Sagan and Duchesne, and that goal happened with 5 minutes and 31 seconds to go in the period. And why not? Marchment would get his 3rd goal of the game, therefore a hat-trick, his 13th of the season from Lundell and Lundqvist with just 1 minute and 2 seconds to go in that frame. So just adding on to the pain, I guess, if you want to call it, for Blackhawks fans. So with the victory, the Stars still find themselves in the top 3 of that Central Division at 22-9-4. And with the loss, the Blackhawks are the worst team in that division, at least, 11-23-2. All right, that takes care of my recap for 2023. My next video I will upload will have the Winter Classic between the Seattle Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights. I'll either upload that later today or upload that tomorrow. But as always, thank you all for tuning into this channel. If you're new to this and you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative as well. Until next time.
Take care.